How's it going, guys? This is Jonny Arnett. Thanks for tuning in. This is episode 3 of the Jonny Arnett podcast. I am here with Marques from UCast Studios. How's it going, Marques?
It's going well, Jonny. How are you doing? Thanks for having me on. And dude, it's been a pleasure working with you so far. And yeah, I look forward to this conversation today.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a rough time for each of us, but I am looking forward to having this. And we got the Laker game coming up tomorrow. It's going to be a huge night, and there's going to be, I'm sure, lots of tears shed, but lots of reflection too. And so the fact that we're both huge Laker fans, I figured it would be a good time for us to get together and talk about everything going on around the NBA right now, from Kobe and the logo situation, and just reflecting on his career and how the Lakers can move forward, and LeBron James. So I'm looking forward to getting into it.
Yeah, man. So am I, dude. It's like you said, so both of us, obviously, we're near Southern California. I mean, I'm like very close to LA, and yeah, dude, it is, I think, especially for people in this area, it's really weird, you know. I went to the gym on Monday, and I just remember there were so many people like in Kobe Bryant jerseys. I was like, whoa, I'm like, dude, this is like, I was surprised at the number of people. And I think obviously for everybody, you know, Kobe, especially for basketball fans and even non-basketball fans, he really meant a lot. But I think in particular, LA, it does seem, I mean, I guess I can only compare it to LA. It definitely does seem like there's an extra sting, I suppose you could say.
Yeah, I mean, he had got to a point just in his public figure where he was such an inspirational figure to so many people, not just sports, but even just looking at, you know, Jimmy Kimmel and Jimmy Fallon and their responses and all these different shows that he's been on, and how emotional Ellen DeGeneres was about it. And like his impact and his reach goes beyond the United States and beyond basketball. I've never really, at least in the sports world, I've never really been a part of this where, you know, so many people universally are just mourning together. And in a sad but kind of beautiful way, it's really united the basketball community. I don't see people arguing as much about like, oh, this guy's better, you know, Kobe, LeBron, all that, but it's kind of just brought everybody together. And that was kind of the interesting irony of like the timing of it. I mean, just right as LeBron is passing Kobe and he's hugging him just like the day before, and then he passes. You know, it's way too soon, and sad that him and Gigi are gone that soon. But if that's the lasting image, is him bonding with his daughter and him, you know, congratulating LeBron, like that's not a bad last image to have.
I mean, yeah, there's so many things you can definitely get on a rabbit trail for on this. I mean, even like one thing too, I mean, like that specific like hillside where like Kobe's helicopter crashed. I mean, like, I'm sure you've been on the 101 there several times. I mean, I know I have been, and it's just so bizarre, that spot. It's just such a, if you're from an area where it's very, I don't know, there's a lot of mountains or hills, like if you're used to driving and you always see that on the side of the road, I mean, it was so unspectacular. Like, it's just a normal mountain. And when I first heard the news, I mean, I was totally blown away. I mean, a bunch of people texted me, and I was shocked. And I mean, for Kobe, I mean, like you said, I mean, he definitely, I mean, like you said, I mean, obviously people can have debates about, you know, where Kobe's all-time ranking is. But one thing for sure about Kobe that made him so unique as an athlete was he really was more than an athlete. I mean, he had this charisma, and he had a certain star power that just transcended just simply being one of the best people that's ever played your sport. I mean, you look at somebody like, I don't know, Cody Bellinger, who's the Dodger who just won the MVP. It's like he's a great player, obviously, you know, he won MVP, he's spectacular, and he has a great future in front of him. But like, you know, I feel like in every sport there's always going to be a person who's like really great and, you know, maybe even really transcendent at their sport. But then there's people where, you know, like a Muhammad Ali, or especially like with Kobe, where there's just something about it that just is so transcendent. Like, people, they knew who he was even if you had never watched a basketball game before. And I think for a lot of people, he really did impact their lives, even if they weren't Laker fans, Kobe fans, or even basketball fans.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just because I think, you know, a large portion of that is because it was something Kobe prioritized. He talked a lot about just being an inspiration to the next generation of athletes. He said that so many times, and it was eerie. I've been watching certain videos where, interviews with Kobe, where it's almost like he was so passionate about leaving an imprint on the next generation of players that it was just eerie watching it. Like it was almost as if he was planning for this, and he did such a great job about it, because essentially he had his career playing basketball, and then he had 4 years, like 3.5 years after his final basketball game, to really leave an impact as Kobe, the businessman, the friend, the inspiration, and not just a basketball player. And he did a lot in 3.5 years, man, from winning an Oscar, to being involved in so many different organizations and people's lives. And so, yeah, I'm going to miss him so much, but I am looking forward to the next 10, 20, 30 years and hearing stories of people doing significant things because they were inspired by Kobe Bryant. That's something I mentioned on my video from my channel, is over the next, couple decades, we're going to be hearing more and more people who were inspired because of something Kobe said or did. So I am looking forward to that aspect.
I think you're totally right too. Like outside of the sport, the only time I ever saw Kobe Bryant actually in person was actually at a Hollywood Bowl show. The year that he won the Academy Award, or like when he was promoting Dear Basketball, he was there. And right. Dude, in the Hollywood Bowl, man, the people just went crazy. And this was, if I'm not mistaken, my timetable a little bit, I think it was about like roughly a year and a half after he had retired. I think it was like September 2017, and I believe it was around that time. And yeah, dude, the people just, they went crazy. And dude, he really was. Obviously everybody, they want to be more than the thing that they're known as. Even for goodness sakes, like the last talk spot that I hosted, like with Andy Bernstein, like he talked about Shaq and how Shaq had like a rapping career, and he said that the Shaq was pretty good. And I think for a lot of athletes, there's kind of that idea sometimes that they want to be more than what they're known for. And I really think Kobe, especially, I think he had even announced the formation of a production company. I'm trying to remember the name of it. It was something with a G, like Granite Studios. Yeah. It's like, dude, who knows what he would have produced through that? Dude, this guy, he was, he truly, just the things he could do on and off the court were just inspiring, like you said, man. And just that whole, just even that idea, this dedication to excellence. Like every time I think of Kobe, I think of that expression, dedication to excellence. And truly, like, yeah, he had it. If you look at his physical body itself, it's like, yeah, there were players that came into the NBA that were bigger and stronger than he was, and maybe faster, had a greater vertical leap than he did. And yeah, dude, it didn't seem like any of that mattered, though. You look at what he accomplished, and you're just like, oh my gosh, like how? And I think a lot of it had to do with this idea of being dedicated to being excellent.
One way, along that same vein, where Kobe inspires me is he was so street smarts. He didn't go to college. He was drafted straight out of high school. I didn't go to college. But Kobe was so intelligent, knowing several different languages. He had matured so much. There's something an old mentor of mine told me, a term. I think it might even be from like the 1 Minute Manager book, but it's leaders are learners. And that just perfectly symbolizes, I think, Kobe. Is because he was just obsessive about learning, about gaining knowledge. And there's a lot of people who kind of have this idea that Kobe's like this arrogant individual, and maybe a little bit when he was younger, a little bit more cocky. But the way I viewed him is he was more of just a confident individual. He had complete confidence in himself, but was humble enough to learn from others and want to improve. From asking Michael Jordan for advice to how to help his game, from asking Steve Nash how to trust his teammates. I think it was 2012 or 2013. Kobe's already, a legend, Hall of Famer, and he sets up a meeting to meet with Hakeem Olajuwon to improve his footwork. Like everybody in the league is looking at Kobe going, you might have the best footwork in the entire league. And Kobe's like, I want to get better. And so he calls up Akeem Olajuwon. And so just aspects like that, never settling, just being a sponge and constantly absorbing information and figuring out every day how to make yourself better. It sounds cliche, but I've never seen anybody from an athlete embody that as well as Kobe did.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of talked about this before, we were starting recording today, that kind of this aspect of, with Kobe, especially in comparison to other megastar athletes, or even like a Michael Jordan, for example, where with Kobe, there was so much intrigue about him and just so many things where it's so hard to nail down kind of who he was. You look at Michael Jordan, and the reputation is this guy was phenomenal, but he was very kind of cold and just about basketball. I mean, obviously he's an incredibly successful businessman after playing, and he owns the Hornets, so obviously he's a billionaire. I mean, obviously he knows a lot about business too, but at least the public perception is so much different. You look at Kobe, and it's so nuanced, because he loved playing basketball when he played, but after he retired, he kind of didn't seem like one of those people that was holding on, where he's he can't let go of the game. I definitely had that impression, but he definitely had the public persona, or at least the impression I got of him was that it wasn't like basketball was the only thing in his life. And that made him really intriguing as a person. I mean, that's why, like you said, you see him you saw him do interviews with a Jimmy Kimmel, or other people like that, and it was wow, it's there's multiple layers here. It's not just simply only basketball. And I remember when he did his press conference after his last game, I feel like it went on for an hour, that press conference. I might be wrong in the time, but I remember watching it. It was just, I was totally mesmerized. I watched the entire thing. It was incredible. I've never heard a press conference like that before.
Yeah, where he was at such peace with himself. He made his decision and he stuck to it, and everybody told him that you're gonna be depressed and you're gonna want to come back. And Kobe said with absolute certainty, no. I was watching a piece on an interview of his where he said that he actually took it as a challenge when people told him that he would be sad after he retired and he'd come back to basketball. And he took that as a challenge to show them that we can be more than athletes. I will be happy doing something else. I will have fulfillment doing something else. And we'll show you that we can do more, that we can be more than just an athlete. And so, yeah, dude, he's going to be missed so much. Something I wanted to get into is, how is the NBA now? Because obviously he's inspired so many, but people almost seem kind of divided on how do we honor Kobe from this point on? What do you think about where do we go from here as far as the logo, retiring his jerseys? What do you think is appropriate ways to honor Kobe?
I think the first thing I'd like to talk about between those things you just mentioned was the jersey. And, I know we talked about this a little bit earlier. I guess I'm torn, because obviously a lot of these franchises, they've announced that they're going to retire the numbers 24 and 8, or at least one of the two are just 24. And I saw a thing today that kind of rubbed me the wrong way, that Paul George, allegedly, he's thinking about changing his number to 24.
Right.
And I gotta tell you, that just rubbed me the wrong way. I don't know what it is. I mean, you obviously look at number 23, and a lot of people have incorporated that as their own. And I mean, obviously that's Jordan's number, but it seems like now, I mean, especially that LeBron's worn it, and Davis has worn it. It kind of feels a little bit more to me I think of 23 as being more of almost like a public domain type of number. Even though, it reminds you of Jordan, it seems more like public domain a little bit. Whereas with Kobe, I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't say that every franchise should retire 24, but I will certainly say that to me, it seems very distasteful for a Clipper to wear 8 or 24. And again, I mean, maybe this is a little bit of anti-Clipper bias, but I think especially Paul George to wear that number, in my mind, is very distasteful, especially after what he said about the Lakers in the past. I mean, again, I know that at least he's publicly said how much Kobe's meant to him, and I'm sure he probably did mean a lot to George. But when I read that report, it definitely, I did not like that. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, it's interesting because Kobe spent 20 years as a Laker and telling everybody that up until the day he passed, that he just bleeds purple and gold. But Kobe didn't carry himself in such a way where he had issues with anyone else of another organization. An example that comes to mind is he was working in the offseason with Jason Tatum. Jason Tatum's a Boston Celtic, and it's like there was a lot of Laker fans I remember at that time like, Kobe, what are you doing? He's one of the enemy. You're helping Jason Tatum. Work with Kuzma. It was a year ago, so it was like, work with Lonzo. Like, why are you working with Jason Tatum? And I think Kobe just had this vision of just helping the game as a whole. I think he understood everybody's on separate journeys, and they got to pursue what's best for them. And so I get it. I might like to see the jersey retired more. I heard somebody suggest online that they think the best way to honor Kobe is not necessarily jersey retiring, but to name an award after him. And I don't think you do the MVP because Kobe only won one MVP, but somebody mentioned the Most Improved Player Award. And I thought that was awesome because I love that idea, because what is Kobe known for, just about, maybe arguably more than anything else, is his hard work ethic. The way he's just dedicated to his craft, getting better every day, every year. And so the Most Improved Player Award is the fruit of that. So I think naming that the Kobe Bryant Most Improved Player Award, you have the Bill Russell, championship trophy. I like that. What do you think about that?
No, I really like that too. I think it has I think it rolls off the tongue very well. And I mean, I think even with Kobe too, kind of in a little bit of the legend of Kobe, one thing that's maybe perhaps a little forgotten is just the idea that when Kobe first came into the league, it wasn't like he just exploded the first year or two. I mean, it wasn't like he was immediately looked upon as, wow, this guy is like a top 5 player right now. It took him a couple years. I mean, not that many years, but he was, I guess, relative for how fast we want people to be a superstar, he was a little slower in that sense. Like, it took him a couple years. And yeah, I think that'd be great. I mean, I think to kind of answer the question you raised about the logo itself, I think that'd be a little difficult. I know we talked about this before we started recording too, but I think you said you had looked at it online, but that idea that you had read about the proposed kind of alternating, like, you should go into that a little bit, because I actually really like that idea a lot.
There's like the petition, I think, is over 3 million votes now to put Kobe in as a logo, but there's been a lot of pushback to that. And a lot of people are saying, just because Kobe died doesn't mean we have to make him the logo, because what happens when, we're all going to pass eventually? So what happens when the next athlete passes? Are we going to make them the logo? So along that same vein, I saw someone suggest basically an alternating logo, because to me, when I see the NBA logo, as long as you have a silhouette with that same color scheme, I associate the NBA with it. It doesn't really matter what the silhouette is itself. If I can tell that's a basketball player, and I see the red and the white and the blue with the NBA on it, immediately what that is. And so somebody suggested, once every 5 years or so, changing the silhouette to honor different players. So you could do Kobe for now, and then 5 years from now, we can do someone else. I think that'd be really cool. I think even from a business standpoint, that would make sense for the NBA, because once every 5 years, basically merchandising sales are going to launch, because like a 2K cover, you're going to want merchandise that has a logo of the new legend on it. Especially if it's a player that people respect or people are fans of. So yeah, I think that would be pretty dope. I would certainly, if there's something with the Kobe logo on it, and then 5 years after that there's Jordan or Larry Bird or something like that, dude, I'm buying a hoodie or a hat once every 5 years, guaranteed.
Yeah, I mean, I think you raised a really good point. I mean, this whole, I think it'd be great to have kind of an alternating logo. And I mean, I think it kind of even goes to the idea too that I think some people, the reason why they might be against Kobe is this idea. It's like, well, he's not the greatest of all time. Like, he's, blank number of people are better than him, or wherever you personally fall in that. I mean, everyone can agree Kobe is an all-time legend. And outside of that, obviously Kobe was an all-time, one of the greatest players ever too. But I mean, on top of that, it's like, you and I, we've talked about this before. It's like, you can't calculate who is the greatest of all time. I mean, yeah, if you want to go by certain metrics, it's like, okay, fine, you could say Jordan, but well, what about Bill Russell? I mean, he won the most amount of titles. Or what about, Kareem? I mean, Kareem was, he was incredible. Will Chamberlain, I mean, this guy he was almost playing like a Super Saiyan level. It's like, you have each, you can make an argument for each of these players, so it's kind of like, I think it would be good to have something like that. So, every 5 years, so, you start with, with Kobe, and then 5 years from now, you do move to like Jordan, and then you can do Will Chamberlain. And I mean, I think it should be people that are, you can certainly make an argument that they're one of the greatest of all time or the greatest of all time. Like, I think, you know, obviously no one wants to see Kyle Lowry as a logo, but like, you know, there's other players where it's like, oh, that'd be cool, you know, having Elgin Baylor for like at least a year or two. It's like, oh, that'd be really cool.
Yeah, Alex Caruso up there for 5 years.
Dude, I think if people had to take a vote between Alex Caruso and Lowry, I think Lowry would win that vote, but I think it'd be a little closer than people might think.
I don't know, man. We're in the meme generation. You might get a lot of Caruso votes.
Yeah.
I don't know. But something I think is going to be interesting is just moving to the Lakers a little bit is basically where do they go from here? Tomorrow's going to be a big game. I'm not sure if you saw LeBron's Instagram post talking about Kobe's passing. And LeBron is really fired up about this season. He was already a man on a mission, but now even more so. I know everybody's going to want to win that championship for the Lakers. LeBron talked about this is why he's got broad shoulders, and he's ready to carry on Kobe's legacy. Some people were actually offended by that, as if LeBron could somehow carry on Kobe's legacy. I was not bothered by it. Being a lifelong Lakers fan, I viewed that more like taking the mantle of the Lakers, because when I think of the Lakers, I don't just think of one player. For a while, it was Jerry West and Elgin Baylor, Wilt Chamberlain, and then it was Magic Johnson, it was Kareem, then it was Shaq and Kobe, and now it's LeBron and AD. And so I kind of viewed it that way. I guess my only concern is LeBron putting too much pressure on himself? That's really my concern. I wanted to hear your thoughts on that as to the Lakers moving forward, carrying on his legacy, and is LeBron putting too much pressure on himself?
Yeah, I mean, I think in relationship to the Lakers, I mean, I feel like, again, I mean, maybe somebody's going to say, oh, well, this is Lakers exceptionalism, but, people could be haters, but the Lakers are an exceptional basketball franchise. Like, it's undeniable. Like, I mean, the Lakers all-time starting lineup and, let's say 4 bench reserves could beat every other team in the league's best lineup ever put together and their reserves. Like, I feel very confident saying, like, a team that started Magic, Kobe, LeBron, Kareem. I mean, dude, like, come on. But with that being said, dude, like, I feel like with the Lakers, something that people might not necessarily understand is this idea, like, the Lakers got really lambasted over the summer where, like, oh, the Lakers are run like a family business and they're run like a mom and pop shop. And I think people, they kind of forgot that the media totally slammed the Lakers for that because, dude, like, all of the people that are connected to the Lakers now, or a lot of these people are like, they've known Kobe for years. I mean, people might not realize this, but it's like Rob Pelinka, the general manager of the Lakers, was Gigi's godfather. Like, he was like incredibly good friends with Kobe for years. And I know everyone says it's like, oh, well, they were incredibly close to Kobe. And I guess there's no way for us to quantify that. But I mean, we do know that he was Gigi's godfather. We do know that they were close. We know that Rob Pelinka was Kobe's agent for years. And it's like, dude, there's a lot of people in the organization that have close ties to Kobe. I mean, even look at player personnel. It's like you said, I mean, LeBron and Kobe, they were obviously friends. And I think LeBron kind of saw that passing the baton of Kobe to him, kind of like what you mentioned. It's like you had the passing from West and Chamberlain to Magic and Kareem. I mean, obviously there's a couple years in between. And then, Magic to Kobe and Shaq, and then Kobe now. And then, 2 years after Kobe retires, LeBron joins the Lakers. So obviously there's a couple little periods of time in between where we didn't have an all-time player. But yeah, man, I think it really does impact the Lakers. I think I saw a report that said that the organization had brought in grief counselors, and I believe that. I mean, a lot of these people, they knew him for years that worked with him. I mean, probably people too where we might not even know their names, like, the director of, I don't know, like media relations. I'm sure they probably knew Kobe. Or I was just throwing a name out there. I mean, I know another name is, what's her name? Judy Saito or Seto? The person that's the head of, oh my gosh. I think it's the medical personnel. She's a person, yeah. She's like the physical therapist for the team or something like that. She does the health stuff for the team. She was Kobe Bryant's physical therapist.
She took over for Gary Beatty. She's the physical trainer on the team.
Yeah, so it's like, I mean, she has known Kobe for years. I mean, all these people, like, they've actually known him for a long time. And I think that there is a lot of grieving in a way that, you know, I don't know. I guess maybe you look at it, it's like, well, if Dirk passed away right now, there'd be a lot of Mavericks employees would be really sad too, because he was there so long. And yeah, I mean, yeah, that's a point, but I don't know, man. I mean, I think the Lakers as a team, I think it is very impactful, and I don't know. I also kind of agree with you, this idea that it's going to set them more on a mission. Like, because there's a lot of people where it's kind of weird connections to Kobe. So LeBron wants to be the successor, or is the successor. Like, you know, Davis, he had been trained by, or not trained, like he had done some like workouts with Kobe, and they were kind of friendly towards each other, at least in the 2012 Olympics. And Kyle Kuzma did do some training with Kobe. And, you know, you have this whole thing with Dwight, how he wanted to reconcile with Kobe. And I think even Kobe had tweeted something like, "Good job, Dwight." It was something like that. I don't know. Maybe it was like 2 or 3 months ago. He did some kind of congratulatory tweet or Instagram post or something like that in favor of Dwight. And I mean, then you even get weirder down the line. It's like, you look at like Rondo. Here's a guy that played against Kobe. Now is trying to win a title for the Lakers this year. Like, I kind of have the impression that it's going to make them more motivated to win.
So a couple thoughts on that is, just as you were talking about that, it really just reminds me of the beauty amidst the ugliness, the little gem in there of Kobe's relationships. I think people need to really be grateful for the relationships that Kobe restored before he went out. Seeing LeBron come to the Lakers, hugging him, congratulating him as he passed him on the all-time list. What if Shaq and Kobe hadn't repaired their relationship? You know, they had that special where they got together just like a year and a half ago, and they talked for an hour, and it was up on ESPN, and they just basically talked about old times, and that brotherhood was restored. If that hadn't been restored, man, this would just add a whole nother level of sadness to him being gone. And you could hear Shaq talking about regrets and how he shouldn't have taken it for granted, but that's not what happened. You know, a lot of that was restored. And the same thing with Dwight. And so I think that's really beautiful. I do think it's going to rally the guys. I just worry that they might put, you know, like way too much pressure on themselves. I worry specifically for LeBron putting too much pressure on themselves. The fan base is going to put them pressure on him because, you know, everybody's saying win it for Kobe. Well, what happens if he doesn't? You know, what happens if the Lakers get bounced on like the second round? You know, not that I necessarily expect that, but what if that happened? You know, is that something he's going to hold against himself for a while? I mean, LeBron still says to this day, I've heard him say it several times, that he regrets not making it to the finals in 2009, where they were eliminated by the Orlando Magic. That was the one finals where we realistically could have had Kobe versus LeBron. And LeBron has never let that go, and it's yet 11 years later. And he was saying that before Kobe passed. So I'm sure he's even more sad about it now. And so I just worry that there's a little too much pressure, but it could be, you know, it could be a fairy tale ending. I know everybody is going to be rallying behind the Lakers. I think as far as the NBA is concerned, I'd have to think throughout the game's history, but this could be the biggest bandwagon like fan base ever, because in terms of like everybody's going to be rooting for the Lakers now, because not only are the Lakers such a huge global brand, but they have LeBron James, and now everybody's going to want the Lakers to win it for Kobe. Whoever's not identified with a certain team, whoever doesn't have like a specific team that they're already a fan of or rooting for, if they're neutral, I think they're going to be rooting for the Lakers. And so that's going to be interesting. And the thing about that is usually we shame people for being bandwagon fans, but that's not going to happen this year. If anybody says I'm rooting for the Lakers, or I normally root for this team, but because of Kobe, I'm jumping on the Laker bandwagon, we're going to give them a big hug and say, all right, let's do this, you know? So it's going to be really interesting to see how this goes this year.
I was going to say, I think you raised a totally good point, especially like, let's say if it's Lakers versus Bucks. I mean, not to be insulting to the Bucks fan base, but like, there's just not a ton of Bucks fans really. I mean, there's a lot of people that are now fans of Giannis, but it's like, it's not like there's Bucks fans in Chicago and just walking around everywhere. I mean, I'm sure there probably are scattered, but it's, you know, so you have the Lakers, which is a mega brand. And then, you know, realistically, they will go against it. Realistically, it probably will be the Bucks. If the Lakers get to the finals, I'm sure the Bucks are going to get to the finals. And yeah, I could see a lot of people coming over to Lakers' side. I mean, if the Lakers do win, it will have that fairy tale. Like, I can already envision, like, what it would look like if there was a 30 for 30 on this Laker team, if the Lakers actually win the title, what it would look like. And I mean, it's a tragedy that Kobe passed, and I could totally see that being, you know, totally woven into the story for this season. I mean, it was crazy to even think. I mean, there was talks that, like, I remember some people who threw out the idea, like, oh, Kobe should come out of retirement for this season and play with the Lakers. I think he shot that idea down, but...
Dude, I said that the night... I said that to my dad the night before he passed.
Wow.
We were watching that game, and we were joking about LeBron passing him, and we're like, now's the time, Kobe. You know, gotta come out and pad those stats. And so, yeah, dude, I mean, that's part of the eeriness too, is he wasn't even gone that long. And I think that adds to the sting of it, is when somebody passes, a lot of time it's out of sight, out of mind. So you get a notification or hear that somebody's passed, but you haven't seen them for a while. So you're like, oh, that's terrible. And, you know, but we literally just saw Kobe on like a giant scale, like LeBron passing him. Yeah. And we were all just talking about that. So anyway, I just had to interject that, because it's like, no, like exactly to your point. It was the night before I was like, Kobe should jump on board and get that 6th ring. And instead he's gone.
Yeah. I mean, it is crazy. I mean, it would have, obviously, if you had played with the Lakers this season, I mean, it would have been incredible to see. I mean, could you imagine, could you imagine a lineup if somehow it were rolled out like this? Could you imagine a lineup in 2020 of LeBron, Anthony Davis, Dwight Howard, Rondo, and Kobe? Dude,
yeah.
In 2020, that would have looked... That's why I kind of scoff at the idea, too, or laugh when I think, like, oh, the Lakers want to trade for Derrick Rose. I think to myself, I'm like, dude, that could potentially be the lineup in the finals. Is, yeah, Howard, Davis, LeBron, Derrick Rose, and like Danny Green. I'm like, dude, that team just sounds like so old.
Can you imagine if you were told that in 2009?
Yeah.
when all those guys were on the top of their game, is, oh, they'll all be Lakers one year. You'd be like, the league's so broken. That's the worst super team ever. Not fair. But it makes sense now that they've aged. But yeah, that is really crazy.
Dude, that's what I think about that. Like, for I've texted some people. I was like, oh, I'm like out of Zion, Luka, and Giannis, which one do you think is most likely to come to the Lakers? And I'm kind of the opinion that I wouldn't be shocked if the Lakers got like 2 of those 3. I mean, we might get none, but like I wouldn't be shocked. I mean, it truly is something about the Lakers that really sets the Lakers apart from other franchises, is just the magnetism for greatness, just true greatness. And, you know, I remember people, you know, in the summer of 2018 when LeBron saw the Lakers, you know, like people like Colin Cowherd and other people were like, oh, LeBron's only coming here to focus on his Hollywood career and he's not trying to win a title and blah, 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 and all this stuff. And then it's like, you fast forward after one season, it's like, I can't envision how, if he had stayed in Cleveland or really gone to any other team, he would be in a better position to win a title right now. Like, I don't know where he could have gone to. I mean, maybe you can make an argument that if he went to the 76ers, maybe a lineup of him, Simmons, and Embiid, maybe would have been better than this. I don't really know about that. I think a lot of it had to do... I think the reason why LeBron came to Lakers, I think a lot of it had to do with this magnetism of the franchise. And it's crazy that amongst all of these great players that have played for the Lakers, they all say it was Kobe, that Kobe was the greatest Laker. I mean, here you have Magic Johnson saying this several times, and you know, he's the only player at Staples Center to have 2 jerseys retired. And it's just crazy that even in a team full of stars and a city full of stars, I mean, Kobe just rose above seemingly everybody else.
Yeah, to be fair, I do think Kobe said about Magic that he was the greatest Laker. So there was this element of humility and raising each other up. But that's part of that Lakers family dynamic that you were talking about, of just, if you're a part of the franchise, you're in Laker lore. You're part of something bigger. And I think LeBron's seeing that. LeBron's enjoying it. There's a part of me that, like, you were talking about how weird it is to see all these Lakers, you know, players who are now Lakers, like Dwight Howard again, and LeBron James and Anthony Davis. I'm still trying to wrap my head around. Every once in a while I pause, think about it, I'm like, LeBron's a Laker. But that was normal of so many guys. Like Karl Malone at one point was a Laker. The only reason why we don't like to talk about it or bring it up is because he didn't win a championship. And that's how we define anything important to us, is championships. But Wilt Chamberlain was well past his prime by the time he became a Laker. Shaq, right as he was entering his prime, became a Laker. So a lot of these guys had built up their legacy somewhere else. And then by the end of their career, we actually do remember them as Lakers. Some of Kareem's best days were with Milwaukee and not with the Lakers. And so I think in a weird way, LeBron specifically, he's digging his heels in, and I think this fan base has embraced him so much, maybe even to the point to where if he wins a championship, if you win a championship with us, you are immortalized with us forever. But I don't even know if he needs to at this point, because Kobe embraced him to such a strong extent the moment he joined the team. And honestly, like, if you're a Laker fan and you're not appreciative of LeBron, if you haven't embraced him yet, man, just think about the last 6-7 years, man, where we didn't make the playoffs. Like, the only reason we're relevant right now is because LeBron chose to join the Lakers. Well, Anthony Davis isn't coming if LeBron's not on board.
No, and I mean, if you want to remember how bad the Lakers team was, I mean, they've been playing Kobe's last game a lot recently. I mean, just watch that team. I mean, it's horrible, that team. We won 17 games that season in Kobe's last 15-16 season. Like, yeah. Dude, the team was terrible. While I was looking at the point guard, I didn't even mind to look. I didn't remember to look up his name. When I saw the point guard for the Lakers, in that Kobe's last game, dude, I don't even know who it was. I don't even remember. Do you remember who it was? Well, I saw him dribbling. I was like, who is that guy?
So D'Angelo didn't start? D'Angelo Russell?
Oh, okay, no, it was D'Angelo's backup then. It was like he kind of looked like a pre-Alex Caruso kind of guy. Like, he just looked like a very average-looking white guy that didn't look very tall.
I don't know, man, but we had a lot of weird guys that just came through. Thomas Bryant and Julius, and we had a lot of guys that were like supposed to turn into something, but for some reason or another just didn't work out for us. Of course, the instant they leave our franchise, they become a superstar elsewhere. So
dude, I think that's one thing, man. I mean, again, I don't know if we're gonna get into a lot of like other Lakers stuff outside of Kobe, but that's one thing, man. Like, I would be so hesitant to trade Kuzma. Like, I really don't want him traded because I'm worried, and I think there's a world that exists where Kuzma gets traded to like, and he ends up in some terrible franchise like the Knicks or I don't know, some really crappy team, and then he averages like 24 points a night. Like, dude, this same time 1 year ago, people were so out on Brandon Ingram. They made it sound like, I remember people were saying like a year ago, like even Brian Windhorst, he was saying that like he was making it sound like Brandon Ingram was as good as Mitchell Robinson. And I was thinking, like, what? Like, you look back at those takes now and you're just like, oh my gosh, like, they're so off that it almost makes you want to throw up. And yeah, I guess, to not digress too much, like, yeah, dude, that last Kobe season, those players, dude, they were trash that year with Kobe. And it sucks that, you know, it's kind of weird because Kobe's last season, if you remember correctly, like, dude, so Kobe leaves on probably the worst team that he had ever been on in his professional career, was that Laker team. And dude, Tim Duncan, if you remember right, like that season, I believe the Spurs won like 65, 67 games. Like, they were like an absolute juggernaut. And that year, I just remember thinking, I'm like, oh man, it's going to be the Spurs versus the Warriors. And I'm like, I think the Spurs are the only team that can beat them. And dude, the Spurs looked, even though the Warriors won 73 games that season, the Spurs looked really good. I hate the Spurs, but at least I can acknowledge they looked good. And then, dude, they just have an epic second round defeat against the Thunder. And then Tim Duncan goes out on that. Like, dude, I think it would have even been worse if Tim Duncan had somehow managed to win a 6th ring the last season Kobe played too. Like, at least that didn't happen.
Yeah, although I am really heartbroken about the way Tim Duncan left the league. But I mean, maybe that's the way he wanted it. But no farewell tour. It could have been a Kobe and Tim Duncan farewell tour, but I guess that's just not Tim Duncan's style. But it was seriously just like, you get a notification on your phone from like Bleacher Report, and it's like, oh yeah, Tim Duncan's retired, you know, little statement. and it wasn't much to it. And so that kind of bummed me out a little bit. But
no, I agree with you. I mean, there could have been a little bit more of a farewell thing, but that's meant in regards to like his actual last game was also a loss. I mean, you know, too, another thing I was also thinking too would be poetic about this season if somehow if the Spurs made it into the playoffs as the 8th seed, dude, how poetic would that be for us to just totally blow them out of the water and sweep them, just like they did the last time we were in the playoffs when we lost in 2013. Dude, that's how we got bounced. We got swept by them. Like, I'd love to see that happen this year if they made it.
It's interesting because that was the 2012-2013 Lakers that had Dwight Howard. It's like we have Dwight Howard now. And Kobe was out with a torn Achilles that year, but it was because of Kobe that they were even in the playoffs. Like, he played those like 7 straight games with like 46 minutes a game right before his Achilles popped. and Kobe made those 2 free throws on a game they had to win to get into the playoffs, and they won like those last couple games and they're in. Yeah, there would be something poetic to that. I hadn't even thought of that. I think Memphis is in the 8th spot right now, but I think San Antonio's 9th, so they're right there.
It's definitely within the realm of possibility, but it probably will be Memphis. But dude, I remember, man, when he tore his Achilles, I remember I was at a friend's house, and this friend is like he's a huge Kobe fan, and I just remember like he was like crying that night because he knew that the Kobe that we had, you know, come to love and watch, that basically like his career was kind of over. And yeah, I heard somebody, I think it was Bill Simmons, who said this on this podcast the other day, you know, talking about that aspect of Kobe, if he hadn't tore his Achilles, like what could have happened that latter part of his career. And dude, I think that's one thing too, when they want to look at just the career stats of Kobe, and they just want to say, oh, well, look at Kobe, like, you know, he sucked here and blah blah blah. Like, I think that's a big asterisk, is you got to look at as those last like 3 seasons he played. I mean, after he tore his Achilles, he was never the same as a player. And before he had done that, I mean, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, he was like all NBA first team that year that he tore his Achilles. I mean, that tells you how good this guy was, that in 2013 he was still that great. You know, 17 years after he was drafted. In a lot of ways, it's actually very reminiscent of LeBron, where it's just, I think that's something that's so great about Kobe. Yeah, it's generational greatness. I mean, it's one thing to be a guy like Vince Carter, where, you know, your time of being a top player is, you know, like 5 or 6 years or something like that. But there's something to be said when your greatness lasts from, you know, Michael Jordan to like James Harden. I mean, dude, that's incredible that Kobe lasted that long as this amazing player.
Yeah, well, I think Kobe was one of the few players who played against Del Curry and played against Steph Curry. So he played against, you know, his father and the son. So yeah, but it's funny that you bring that up, because that's just another like thing I appreciate about Kobe, going way back to the beginning of this podcast, talking about his work ethic, is Kobe's career shouldn't have been as good as it was. It really shouldn't have been, based on how many injuries he had. Not even close. And I have a series on my own personal channel called the GOAT series, where basically I make an argument for each player, their greatest of all time argument. And for Kobe's, it was truly that based on the deck he was given, the hand he was given, he got the best possible outcome. He exceeded expectations, because winning the championship with a broken finger, you know, who does that? Oh, it's Kobe. That's it. No, nobody else does that. A broken index finger on his shooting hand. Everybody remembers his 05-06 season when he averaged 35 points. He had 62 3/4, 81 against the Raptors. Like, everybody remembers that game. He had a knee surgery that summer and still came back and averaged 32 points a game. And then, you know, a year after that, they're in the NBA Finals for the next 3 straight years. And so it was just crazy to see how much he was able to accomplish and fight through. And I don't feel like people talk about that enough, is Kobe dealt with so many injuries that he easily could have turned into one of those Grant Hills, those Penny Hardaways, you know, Bill Waltons, Brandon Roys, those amazing players with all this potential, but just derailed by injuries. But because he just worked through it and fought through so much, he didn't let that happen.
Yeah, and I mean, even if you go back further, like, what if him and Shaq didn't have any on-court chemistry? And what if Shaq said, you know, get rid of this guy? Like, hey, we have an option to get this other player. Let's trade Kobe for him. I mean, you're right, man. I mean, nothing about Kobe, even though people want to be revisionist as much as they are right now, I mean, nothing about Kobe's career screamed that he's going to be the absolute legend that he was. I mean, yeah, I mean, I know Jerry West said he saw him worked out, but still, I mean, dude, it did take him a couple years to really show off. And yeah, you're right. I mean, they could have gone so many other ways. I mean, what if Shaq had some weird freak injury that, you know, that prematurely cut his career short, and then the Lakers had to trade off the parts, and Kobe was one of them. I mean, there's so many what ifs about Kobe, and, you know, the fact that, I don't know, I mean, dude, again, with Kobe, I mean, just generationally great. I mean, you know, another thing too for him is, you know, he beat the Celtics, which as a Laker, it's like, wow, like that's an incredible accomplishment. And if Kobe was 10 years younger, so let's say he was playing right now and he was 31, dude, I have no doubt in my mind that, dude, Kobe would just have all these crazy stat nights like a James Harden. And I remember that debate was going on a couple months ago, where the debate that James Harden is better than Kobe. Like, I mean, you might look at certain statistics and maybe you could say, well, look at this and blah, blah, blah. And look at how many 3-pointers Harden shot more than Kobe. But like, dude, I feel like, and this kind of goes back to something I said earlier. I mean, Kobe, it wasn't just that he was a phenomenal player. It was this whole myth about him. I mean, he really was, like you said it earlier, like before we recorded this, that Kobe in a lot of ways was like Will Chamberlain, where there's all these stories about him. I mean, dude, like I was thinking about this. I want to ask this rhetorically, like for Kobe, like, you know, even before his passing, everyone knew, for example, his middle name was Bean, right? And everyone knew that he had daughters, at least. I was thinking, for a player like James Harden, do you think even most James Harden fans even know his middle name, or even know if he even has a kid? Like, there was something about Kobe that was just transcendent. And I don't mean to pick on James Harden. I was just picking as a player that's really prominent now. But like, I mean, dude, like Kobe, there was just this myth about him, and just things about him were just so like legendary that, I mean, even though, like, yeah, even if you hated him or you were a fan of other teams like, you know, the Celtics or the Pistons, I think even their fan base had to look at Kobe and be like, wow, this guy is incredible. And I think for most fan bases, to be honest, I think when Kobe was playing, they would have loved to have him play for them. I don't know one fan base that would have said, oh, we didn't want Kobe. Like, everyone wanted Kobe. They would have taken him. And I think it's an incredible blessing that the Lakers, that we were able to have him for so many years. And he meant so much to NBA fans, sports fans in Los Angeles. This is a city and the people who live near it. And I think it was an incredible blessing. And I think, you know, I think that this will be looked upon as like an icon passing, like in some ways, like a, you know, like when Michael Jackson passed, or like a Kurt Cobain, or, you know, Jimi Hendrix, like people, or Tupac, like people that were like bigger than life in a lot of ways, and then their life were cut short. Like I think Kobe will be kind of remembered like that, just as this, you know, an icon, just far more than just like sports. And yeah, man, it is sad. And I mean, this, dude, I'm sure you've known people too that are just like emotionally distraught about this. And
with my own basketball community on my channel, everybody's been, you know, just really supportive, but in the comments it's been really encouraging. And I'm just seeing a lot of people who are like, I saw one guy saying, you know, I'm a Celtics fan and I know you're a Lakers fan, but right now we're all Lakers fans. And I was just like, man, that just hit me in the feels, man. That was just like such a sweet comment. Is just, it really has united people. And I think there's something beautiful about just the spirit of competition, is how you get a bunch of alphas together that are determined to beat each other and determined to win. And Kobe is the epitome example of an alpha, just hardworking and competitive and always challenging himself and challenging the person across from him. I think that's what people just love about him, is he brought the best out of everybody by pushing himself, challenging himself, and challenging you as well. I think kind of the first point where that legend of Kobe really started to build was the 2008 Summer Olympics, because people who were on the same team as Kobe on the Lakers, they knew about his work ethic, they knew about his commitment to his craft and just how passionate he was. But it wasn't until, I think, the Summer Olympics where LeBron saw it, and Carmelo saw it, and, you know, Chris Bosh saw it, and Chris Paul saw it, and everybody. And there were stories of him getting up at like 4 a.m. and going for a run or going for a bike ride and then shooting some hoop, and they show up for practice at like 7:30 in the morning, and Kobe's already in a full sweat because he's been there. And so the rest of the Olympic team then starts waking up early, and they all start doing it together. Like, he just brought the best out of everybody. That's actually the video I'm planning on doing at some point, is Carmelo Anthony said, and it's such a cool quote, he said that summer Kobe made everyone else better, and he made them all better leaders. So then they went back to their teams and they made all of their teams better. And so if you really think about that, it's like, man, the 08-09 season was intense. And I remember some of those playoff games where they were physical. I remember when Carmelo was on the Nuggets and him and Kobe were just scrapping down in the low post. And that was an intense playoffs. And to think that like Kobe played a part in that, in inspiring everybody and making everybody work harder that summer, that's really incredible to me.
Yeah, and then you know, to kind of bookend that, Kobe ends up winning the finals that year. The first one where he kind of proved to the world, like, hey, I can do this without Shaq. And I think too, for a lot of people, I think maybe the closest thing to that you can maybe say is like a Durant and Curry situation, where it was like, I think for Durant, rightfully or not, like his whole legacy is going to be connected to the idea of joining the Warriors team that was already fully built. And there kind of is that asterisk next to his titles for a lot of people, them saying like, oh, well, yeah, he joined that team, they won without him. And I think for Kobe, I mean, the fact that he had this killer instinct to say like, hey, you know what, like I wasn't only Shaq's sidekick and I brought a lot to the table, and then I win 2 without him. I mean, and went to another finals without, went to 3 finals obviously and won 2 titles. But I mean, yeah, for Kobe, I mean, dude, he proved that. So now people, I mean, if Kobe had only won the 3, I think there would have been a lot of that, oh, well, he was Shaq's sidekick and that was it. But yeah, Kobe definitely proved that wasn't the case. And if the NBA, if they hadn't stopped the Chris Paul trade, again, it's one of those big what ifs. I mean, if they hadn't stopped the Chris Paul trade, could we have seen a 2013 finals with the Lakers versus Miami? I don't know. I mean, who knows? Maybe Kobe would have won another title or even 2 if, I mean, it's a lot of what ifs. Because then, if you do have Chris Paul, can you attract another free agent? And I don't know what could have happened, but.
Well, Kobe and Chris Paul almost certainly, like it would have been just Kobe and Chris Paul in 2011, 2012. Pretty sure.
Okay.
That's when they first would have been together. And it would have been just them 2. And that would have been hard. That would have been hard to beat Miami. I don't know if they pull it off. But in 2012, 2013, the Lakers would have still had Andrew Bynum. They had Andrew Bynum to go with Chris Paul and Kobe. And if you remember, the writing was on the wall for the Dwight Howard for Andrew Bynum trade for a while. And so because they traded Lamar Odom and Pau Gasol to acquire Chris Paul, I still think they end up trading Andrew Bynum for Dwight Howard. So now you got Dwight Howard, now you got Kobe, now you got Chris Paul. I think Dwight Howard is exponentially better if he's got Chris Paul to run the pick and roll with him, to throw him lob passes. I mean, man. And just even defensively, to have those 3 players on the same team. I don't think the Lakers get off to such a terrible start in the beginning, so I don't think they hire Mike D'Antoni, which was literally like the worst coach they could have hired for an old team that doesn't have shooters, that has 2 twin towers. They get a transition 3-point shooting coach. Like, what are you doing?
And then on top of that too, I mean, like, if they were just better, like Dwight wouldn't have had to like rush back from injury. Maybe Kobe would have played less minutes, and
yeah,
it would have been, like you were saying, it would have been a totally different dynamic. And unfortunately, the Lakers were kind of robbed of that potentially happening.
Yeah, for sure. But even just getting back to the root of what you're saying, like, there's so many what ifs tied to Kobe's career, and the dude still got 5 championships.
Yeah, exactly.
It's incredible. And even in that 2009 season that you said, where they beat the Magic in the finals, if you remember, I think was it an ACL? Andrew Bynum went out halfway through the season. Like, they lost their big center, and they won the championship for like a majority of the playoffs. I think he was back by the Magic series, but he was doing hardly anything statistically by that point. So with a significant injury like that to your 3rd best player, you would think, oh man, this might totally derail their championship, aspirations. But they beat the Rockets in 7 in the semifinals. They beat the Nuggets in 6 in the Western Conference Finals. There was just no stopping Kobe that year. If you remember, that was when we first started seeing the Kobe scowl, when he started sticking his bottom teeth out.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's where that first showed up. But man, he was just so determined. So yeah, I'm gonna miss that guy. And it's kind of interesting for me, being a basketball historian, somebody who's loved the game for so long. Michael Jordan and Kobe were of the same breed, man. And when I go back to my first days loving the game, there was Michael Jordan. And what was beautiful about Kobe and Michael is right as Michael was on his way out with the Bulls is when Kobe steps in. So for a lot of us that were like huge Jordan fans in the 90s and just appreciated Jordan, he was essentially basketball in the 90s. It's right then that Kobe comes in. And it's almost like he might not be as good as Jordan, but he's pretty dang close. He's basically like a copy or 2.0 of Jordan. And yeah, man, that's just... And it wasn't until he retired in 2016 that it's like, all right, that's the last of that breed, And I hope we get another one like it. Just a guy who's determined, fierce, competitive. But I don't think he's there right now. But we'll see. This whole Mamba mentality movement, it might make it happen.
The only player I can think of a little bit like that maybe is Giannis, but I don't know, because he does have a little bit of that meanness to him. But no, you're right, man. That whole just you know, I'm gonna kill you on the court kind of mentality. I mean, I don't know. It does seem like it's kind of gone. And I mean, obviously, I think you even did a video about this. I think the video is the NBA too soft, and you have that teddy bear with the toilet paper. Yeah, man. I mean, I think, you know, now it is so much different. I mean, I don't know. I mean, obviously everybody wants to win when they're playing, but I don't know. It doesn't seem like that highest level, like I'm competing at the same level Kobe was competing at. It really doesn't seem like it's there as much. And I think for a lot of the older school, I just think that mentality really exists. Like I remember Jerry West, I remember listening to something that probably an interview he did maybe like 10 or 12 years ago where he talked about one of the years that he lost in the finals. And he said that like after one time losing to the Celtics that like he just like closed himself off for the whole summer. And he was so depressed and so like angry, I think, that like he didn't even like do anything. He was just miserable. And I don't know if there's a ton of players in the NBA like that anymore that get miserable about losing. The only one I can maybe think of is Giannis, but I don't know. I mean, that's why, again, I mean, for Lakers fans, I could see them being a little hesitant towards LeBron because it's like, I can guarantee you this, if LeBron does not win a title, I have a feeling that he would not take it as badly as when Kobe didn't win in 08, you know? Like, I have a feeling that LeBron is going to be like, yeah, that was, you know, there's always next year. I mean, hopefully he doesn't pull on the Lakers where if we do lose in the finals this year, hopefully he doesn't come out with his wife's scarf on his hand again. Say, oh, I had a kind of a broken hand. Say, oh, kind of a broken hand? What does that mean?
You are a fan who hasn't totally embraced LeBron yet. I can tell, dude. I get it, though. Like, I don't know, though, man. You're talking about him, like, him just shrugging it off or not getting. I would normally agree with you, but this year, because of Kobe's passing, I don't know, man. I think I'm worried about LeBron. I think that if he doesn't win this year, it's going to hurt him. I really think. I
think I agree with you for this one. I mean, yeah, like when the Cavs lost their fourth matchup against the Warriors, like he kind of did seem like ambivalent, but now, the thing too, I think with the Lakers now is that I don't think there's any excuse. I mean, at least maybe LeBron's his mindset in the 17 and the 18 finals was, this is just a better team than I have. But now it's like, really, you look on paper and you're like, I don't know, again, let's say it is Lakers versus Bucks. It's like, are the Bucks really a better team on paper? I mean, like, their second best guy is Chris Middleton. Like, Anthony Davis should theoretically be way better than Middleton, or even the Clippers. If the Lakers lose to the Clippers in the Western Conference Finals, it's like LeBron and Davis should be better than Kawhi and Paul George. I mean, everyone would say that at least, you know, of those four, Paul George is the worst. I mean, I don't know, man. I really think there's really no excuses right now to lose. I mean, in my opinion, I really don't see any, but I can also see what you're saying, like the hesitation of like if LeBron accidentally, or if he exerts himself too much, you know, could we, you know, potentially see like a Kobe 2012, 2013 season injury happen to LeBron? Like, I obviously really hope it doesn't, but like, I can also see that aspect too, where it's like, okay, maybe LeBron should load manage a little bit just so, you know, he probably doesn't need to play 34 minutes against a team like the Magic.
Yeah, I'm not even just talking about that and overexerting himself, but also just like the mental health of everything. Like, he looked up to him so much. He was just a kid in high school when Kobe was winning championships, and he idolized him. And so this weight he has on his shoulders now, win it for Kobe. That's everybody, like, that's starting to be a rally, and I bet you're going to start seeing hashtags and everything. Everybody wants them to win it for Kobe, and LeBron said in an Instagram post, like, I'm going to carry this, we're going to get it done for you. And it's like, dang, man, I hope you do, but like, I hope you don't get too depressed if you don't, because it's not your fault, and it's not all on you, you know? I like the old school mentality. I like the fact that he's taking responsibility, but yeah, I know everybody wants to win it for Kobe. Like, Paul George wants to wear his number. Kawhi Leonard was mentored by Kobe. He's going to want to do it too. Giannis, even he has motivation, because remember, Kobe was giving out his challenges on social media, and he challenged Giannis to win MVP. And so he did. And then Giannis asked for his next challenge, and Kobe said championship. And so you don't think Giannis is like dying to win a championship this year? I mean, he absolutely is too. So I know everybody in their own mind, wants to honor Kobe with the ring. I just think most of the fan base is going to be, rooting for the purple and gold, obviously.
Well, dude, can you imagine how incredible it could be if, let's say, Lakers and Bucks, and like, dude, it's Game 6 at Staples Center, or yeah, I guess in that situation I would be like, can you imagine Game 6 at Staples Center? Could you imagine the Lakers winning a title there this year in Staples Center? Like, oh my gosh, dude, it would be totally emotional. I mean, it would be crazy, man. And I mean, I think even for how good LeBron is, and even if we managed, if like Anthony Davis, let's say he stayed a Laker for the rest of his career, I don't think the Lakers will ever have another Kobe. And I don't really know if it's possible to ever. I don't know if any fan base will ever have another Kobe.
Yeah, I was so excited to see what Gigi was going to become, man. I was watching videos of her this morning, and it's just so sad. But she had his skills, man. She had his footwork and his fadeaway, and it was beautiful. And I know they're together now, and but yeah, man, I don't know. I think we'll see another one of that breed soon. I feel like this is going to play a big part in that. Is Kobe is so inspirational right now, and this Mamba mentality thing is so huge. I mean, Novak Djokovic, like a tennis player, was talking about Kobe being his mentor. Tennis, like everybody's talking about how they've been inspired by some way, shape, or form by Kobe. So we'll see more. I bet. Just guys who are just determined, guys who have modeled their game and their attitude after him. I was not that I'm patting myself on the back or anything, but like the day Kobe died, I was editing that night until like 4:30 a.m. because I was like, I got to get this video done for Kobe. I got to get it done for Kobe. Because like, dude gave me 23 years of working so hard and sacrificing sleep. I can get one video done, And that's just like one very small example of how on one night, like this dude motivated me. And so I think you're going to see so many people just inspired and doing amazing things and walking with torn Achilles and all kinds of crazy stuff because of this guy.
Yeah, I think I could see that. I mean, I agree with you. This idea of just the Mamba mentality, this just dedication to just, I don't know, keep going back to the idea of the dedication to excellence. And yeah, and I think that's a big thing that a lot of people can take in their normal lives. And it sounds like probably a dumb cliche, but just this idea of, like what are you playing for, I guess, in your own life? I don't know. It sounds so cliche, but it's like, when you're at your job, it's like, are you at your job to fit in with everybody else, do as well as them, or do you want more for your life? And I don't know. I have thought about that. I mean, I've kind of had that thought sometimes, at least, for the last several years, this idea of, what do you want in your life? Because I mean, you can see a lot of people just kind of drifting, or they're okay with just mediocrity. And I think that a lot of people are far more capable of mediocrity than they know. And I think a lot of people just kind of settle for, okay, well, this, and I don't know. I believe that people can have a lot of greatness even in their own life, even if it's something, like not basketball, obviously, but like even just like normal everyday type of stuff, or even you could kind of mention this a little bit earlier, this, reconciliation in people's lives. And yeah, I mean, I hope maybe people take that out of this whole Kobe situation. Is just, for the people in your life that, there needs to be reconciliation, maybe it's good to reach out to them, even if, maybe they were the instigators or they harmed you. Sometimes there's nothing wrong with a person maybe putting aside their pride or their hurt feelings to really reconcile with someone, because, I mean, yeah, you never know. And even if it's not them passing away, like, you push it off to the side, and then all of a sudden it's, been decades, and then the person dies. Or I just kind of believe, yeah, those two ideas, the whatever you're gonna do it to the best of your abilities and want more for your life. And I really think that's what the dedication excellence means. And then also the reconciliation, if you got problems with one of your parents or a brother or a sister or an old friend, or maybe even an ex, I mean, maybe it might be worth it, not to get back with her, but just to maybe message her and say, hey, maybe I was a big like dickhead, and I'm sorry about this, and I want to that's why I want to apologize to you. I don't know, I mean, whatever those situations are. But yeah, I think those are two really big things to think about. And yeah, man, I mean, people you can just drift through your life so easily. It's very easy just to be on autopilot. It's very easy to not let things go, but at least those are two things I'm going to kind of think about from Kobe, is those two aspects. But
I think that's a beautiful way to close this podcast, actually. We should maybe think about wrapping this guy up. But Kobe would be sad at the time of his life that he's exiting. But if he could see the impact he left and the way he's inspiring people and the way he's, just motivated people to move forward, I think this is what he intended. And to say that he really did that in the few years, after basketball, that's incredible. It's really amazing. Yeah. You good here, bro? You think you got anything else you want to address?
No, I think I'm pretty good, man. No, it's definitely, I know before we talked, I was like, oh my God, I'm a little sick. I think I only have a half hour in me. And this podcast is, an hour and 17 minutes or whatever, 8 minutes now. It's like, there's even things I kind of wanted to bring up beforehand. And I was like, all right, well now we've gone a while, but dude, I thought this was great, man. I thought hopefully this was, positive about Kobe, and hopefully, even the Laker talk, hopefully it didn't sound like, all we care about is a title, because obviously, they're really inconsequential to people's lives. And obviously the biggest thing is, here was, Kobe and all these other people too. It's not only his young daughter, but, other people's, young daughters, and these, like that one family, what was it? The Altabelli family? I don't know, I might be saying that incorrectly, but it's like, dude, that family lost the dad, mom, and a sister. So there's 2 kids now that I think from the photo I saw, I don't know, maybe the son's in his 20s and the other girl is maybe a teenager. Dude, I couldn't even envision what that would be like to lose my dad, mom, and a sibling at the same time when I was younger than 25. Dude, that's so heartbreaking. And like I said, dude, it's just, I knew, there's this guy that I know that he drove out there to the site, or near the site of when the helicopter crashed that day. And he said that was the eeriest feeling he'd ever had in his life, was there, near the helicopter crash site. I think he was across the freeway of it. I saw his Facebook live video about it, and you would never think, and honestly, if you've driven through Calabasas or you've driven through Southern California, especially through Ventura County or Santa Barbara County and stuff, it's just so innocuous.
On that note, yeah, just be praying for the families, keep them in your thoughts. I know I will. Every single one of those people have families, have have lives, and have people that are mourning right now, and not just Kobe and Gigi, but everyone involved. So yeah, we're thinking about them, we're praying about them. We hope this podcast was an encouragement to you guys. I might have to jump on and play some more Smash Brothers tonight to get all the footage I need for this podcast. If any of you guys would like to play Smash with me, I'm going to have a comment down in the comment section where you can just leave a friend code and I'll add you on my Switch and we can play some games together. But as far as episode 3 of the podcast, thank you guys for listening. Thank you, Marques, for jumping on this one with me. It was a pleasure, and I hope this was an encouragement. I hope we were an encouragement to people who are mourning right now.
Yeah, man, I hope so too. And I'll say this one last thing, I forgot to mention this. So for my own show, The Talk Spot, I interview people, and that's the whole gist of it. And I have a person that helps with the bookings, and she actually emailed Kobe, his people, maybe a month ago, rather than this month. And usually when we try to ask a bigger person to come on, they never respond back. They just say nothing back. His people actually responded back. So I thought that was a really cool thing. And the person that helps with that booking, it's my sister, and she's a huge Kobe fan. And the fact that they even responded back, I thought was really cool. I just figured I'd say that one last thing because I totally forgot until right now.
That's awesome, man. And yeah, I could go on and on saying good things about Kobe and what he's become. But man, that's awesome because he did, especially later on in his career, he just treated people like equals, down to earth. That's good to hear. Thanks, man. And yeah, we're gonna wrap that one up. Make sure to like and subscribe. And if you got any comments or questions, we'd love to engage with you guys in the comments section. You guys all have a good day.